Hello, everybody. Good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome to Northshore. We are so excited that you are joining us this morning. My name is Samantha.
And I'm Jackie, and I'm so glad to be here with you this morning. I just want to say, if you are watching with us online, will you just take a minute and pop in the chat where you're watching from? Because it's amazing. People are watching from all over the world even.
Yeah.
So let us know where you're watching from. And then will you just take just a quick second and just hit that share button? I did that last year right around Easter, and actually, well, since then as well. But a friend of mine ended up watching, and now she started coming to North Shore. She just got plugged in a life group, and she just said it's been such a joy to be here. And I thought, all I did was click a little button, but it's so easy. So go ahead and do that.
Yeah, it's like,
great.
It's never been easier. We say this a lot. It's never been easier to invite somebody to North Shore.
Yes.
Way too easy. So go ahead, comment, and share the stream. We would love that. But Jackie, thanks for joining us for pre-service today.
I'm glad to be here.
I don't think you've been on before.
I have not.
This is your debut.
We're scraping at the bottom of the barrel now.
No, oh my goodness. No, that is hardly the case. But for those who don't know you, who haven't had the pleasure of meeting you, can you introduce yourself and just a little bit about your role here at North Shore?
Sure. So my name is Jackie Giardino, and I'm part of the life group team. And that is such a joy to get to help you connect in a life group and engage in community and invest in your growth, in your relationship with Jesus. My husband and I live in Woodinville with our 3 rambunctious boys who have been doing school from home, so it's been pretty loud at our house.
How have you been? How have you been with that lately?
I'm really glad to be here. My coffee intake, I mean, I'm a coffee drinker anyway, but it's definitely increased this past year, but it's good. It's been good to have them home.
Yeah.
I feel like my relationship with them is sweeter now than it ever has been before.
Oh, that's good.
And we've learned how to work out conflict better and, all the things. So,
there's some wonderful
goodness.
things that have come out of this past season, as much
goodness.
as it's been hard and everything. But I did have a random question for you. So actually I have 2. First of all, have you ever gone skydiving?
I have not, but that is actually on my bucket list.
Is it really?
Bungee jumping is not, for some reason.
No.
Okay, see, some people feel like they go in the same bucket, but
No, because you're literally tied to like
it's the bounce back.
Yeah, I don't like that at all.
Yeah.
That's not okay.
I would like to go skydiving. I
Okay.
used to have a significant fear of heights, and
Okay.
so I feel like that's the last bridge to cross to fully overcome that. So yeah, no, I have not.
Well, let us know when you're gonna go skydiving. That would be
We'll take you guys along. It'll be fun. Okay.
like a GoPro and everything. Okay.
Oh.
Anyway, Brian, we can probably do a GoPro or something. The last question, really quickly. Okay, if COVID wasn't a thing, money was no object, and you were getting on a plane tomorrow, where would you go? First place that comes to mind.
Europe comes to mind, but then I feel like I should go see my parents, but that's because of COVID. Like, I haven't seen them in a long time.
Well, that's okay.
So,
That's fair.
But yeah.
Go visit your parents then.
Yeah, my parents live just outside Chicago.
Okay.
We moved from England when I was a kid. They're there, which is why I have a soup of an accent.
Okay.
So
I asked you that question because
Yeah.
we talked about it in our life group the other day,
Oh,
and
that.
I just thought it was a good question. It's
well,
kind of fun to know.
Where did you go?
I would go to Greece. I've always wanted to go to Greece.
Okay, that's kind of the picture that came to mind.
Yeah.
Like Italy, Greece. Yeah.
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 So-
Never been.
Anyway, well, for those who have
okay.
never met you, now they know a little bit more about
A
you.
little
So
bit more.
that's
I
great.
would love, put in the chat, where would you go? Money's not a problem.
Yeah.
There is still COVID. Where would you go?
You're getting on a plane tomorrow. Where is it?
Amazon
Let us know.
rainforest? Where is it? I don't know.
So what we're going to be talking about next, Jackie, has nothing to do really with what we've been talking about. But we have been talking about it for the past month, which is Easter at North Shore is next Sunday, 1 week away.
So excited.
Oh my goodness.
So excited.
And we keep saying this, how excited we are, but I hope that the excitement is showing.
It just keeps building.
Yeah.
It just keeps building.
Yeah, we're so excited. So I have made this little Easter basket for us.
Love it.
And
Arts
in
and crafts
each
time.
of these Easter eggs is a little detail of our of next weekend, Easter at North Shore.
Okay.
So we're just gonna go through here and give you all the details. So this one says, before we get to Easter, next Friday is Good Friday, so that's April 2nd. It's at 7 p.m. and that is an online only service. So you're gonna wanna join us. It's just one service, 7 p.m. online only, April 2nd.
I always
It's gonna be
love
so
the Good Friday services.
Yes.
They are so different than Easter,
Yep.
but prepare my heart for Easter. It is significant. Prioritize that. Put it on your
Yes.
calendar. 7
Definitely.
o'clock, Friday night.
See you there.
Online. You can watch in your jammies.
Love it. Okay,
I love that. Okay.
Pick one.
I'm gonna pick this one
Okay.
in the middle. Let's see here.
exciting.
Oh, I feel like this is getting ahead of us, but
That's okay.
just plan on that you're going to come to Easter, and it's online, but
Yes.
it's also in person.
Yes.
For 3 services on our Cookham campus. And this says to RSVP if you're joining us on campus.
Yes.
So that's usually we ask for RSVPs for children because we want to make sure we have plenty of preparation for you
Right.
and crafts and all the people to take care of your little ones. But also make sure you RSVP for you as an adult on Easter as well.
Yes.
We're just asking everybody to go to northshore.church/Easter and RSVP. So let us know that you're coming. We prepared so many good things for
Yes.
you, and we want to see you here.
We want to be ready.
Yeah.
We want to be ready.
Or watch
Yeah.
online if that's your plan.
Yep,
Yeah.
exactly. Okay, let's see what this one says. Oh, yeah, what everyone needs to know, service times. So we've got online and in-person 3 service times, 8, 9:30, and 11. So if you didn't already know that, you didn't write it down, go ahead and write it down right now, 8, 9:30, and 11.
I love that it's the same online as in person.
Yes,
So
very
we know
easy.
that we're all in it together, like
Yep.
we're all watching together.
Yep, love it. Okay,
Oh, okay. So this one says, who will you invite? Who are you going to invite?
Yep.
Sam, who are you inviting?
we actually got, and hopefully some of you got those card invites, and well, there goes
There
the
goes
egg.
the egg.
In the mail this past week, we sent out a bunch of cards that are invitations, and so Brian and I were gonna go give one to our neighbor. So just
love
that
that.
live like right behind us.
So you can text my invite
Yes.
to 97000.
Yeah.
I always, math is not my thing. I'm like, is it 1,000?
97,000.
Yeah, 97,000.
Yeah.
Yes, so let us know who you're gonna invite. And then I think this also sends you,
Yes, so that'll send you a digital invite that you can post to social media or you can text out to friends and family. Super easy.
I love that. And
Yeah.
I just want to be super clear that it looks like glitter on the invite, but there is no glitter
There's no
involved.
glitter.
For those of who are glitter averse, there's no glitter. So
Yeah, just
I feel like that could be
everyone will be fine.
yeah.
Okay, and lastly, are you ready to be baptized? Probably one of the most exciting things about Easter at North Shore is that we are going to be celebrating baptism. So if you have been thinking about being baptized, you're ready to take that step, go to northshore.church/baptism, sign up. We are just going to have a major celebration. So excited.
Love that.
Yeah.
I love that. Baptisms are one of my favorite things
Yeah.
because it's just such a celebration of what
Yeah.
God is doing in somebody's life. And just, I mean, people, if you haven't been baptized, sign up to get baptized. Like there's no,
Yep. Now is the time.
yeah, there should be nothing holding you back. It's such a simple decision
Yeah.
that makes such a big difference. It's such a marker.
Yep.
I distinctly remember when I was baptized.
Yep, same.
I distinctly remember 2 Easters ago when I got to baptize my son.
Yes,
Oh,
I
talk
forgot
about
that.
waterworks. Like just a celebration of what God is doing in his
Yeah,
life.
that's right.
And to see that now lived out through COVID at home and
Yep.
school at home and all that, like
Yeah.
it's just been really sweet.
And we're all gonna get to celebrate together next Sunday at Easter.
Yes.
I think those are all the details. I think we've covered it pretty well. But obviously, we can't wait. We hope that you guys are excited, are looking forward to inviting friends and family and to also being baptized if that's your next step. But before we hop into worship and everything else today, we are going to take a look back at last week. Scotty's message was fantastic in our series Restart, so go ahead and take a look at this.
Like Jesus, who didn't walk away from this world, he dove in all the way to a cross and all the way out of a tomb to prove that God is bigger than you think, and he's closer than you think, and he's better than you think. And you can search the world high and low. You can compare him to every other god or idol or image, but there is no one like him. There is no one like him. And here's the thing, I want to be part of telling his story. I want to see him reach the unreachable and do the impossible. I want to see people who are desperately searching for answers find those answers in him. Well, how about you?
It's so good. I'm so thankful for this series that we've been in.
Yeah.
It's just been solid week after week. And I know Wolfgang has an amazing message for us again today.
So excited.
But before we jump into that, I just want to say, if this is your first time checking us out here at North Shore, we want to hear from you. We would love to get to know you. So go ahead and text North Shore to 97,000, or if you're on campus, stop by the guest services table in the lobby right after service, and I'll be there to greet you. I'd love to meet you and get to know you.
Yeah, would love it. Well, thanks again, Jackie, for joining us and hanging out. You'll have to come back because we need to talk more about the whole skydiving experience
skydiving or bungee jumping
that you'll hopefully be having at some point.
Down the road.
Love it. Well, Northshore, it is time to worship. I hope that you're ready. We are so glad you're here. Let's hop in together.
Thanks for joining us at Northshore Online. My name's Brandon, and it's good to be with you today. Let's sing to Jesus together. Seek him now, the King of heaven, Son of God, enthroned above. Heavy cross upon his shoulders, carried for us, carried for us. See him now, our King surrendered.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Northshore. My name is Becky Barshow, and it's so good to be together with you all today. If you are new around here, we're especially glad you're joining us, and we want to give you the kind of welcome you deserve. So text Northshore to 97000 so we can connect with you and help you find some of your next steps here. My husband and I moved to the area and started attending Northshore about 2 years ago now. And we recognize that this can feel like a really large church. And it was easy for us each week just to tune in on Sunday or come to the Kirkland campus and duck out at the end. But we felt more and more like we were missing out on the fullness of what God really wanted for us here. And maybe that's you too. Whether you're brand new or you've been around a while, but you just haven't quite found your place to get connected yet, I want to invite you to an experience that I get to be a part of called Starting Point. It's by far the best way for anyone to get more involved here. If you want to know more about who we are as a church, meet some of the awesome people who are part of this community, we have really created the whole experience with you in mind. I want to personally invite you to join us for our spring session that starts in just a couple weeks now. We're going to be meeting on Zoom for 4 Tuesday nights. It starts on April 20th at 7 p.m. for just an hour each week. I'll be there, a lot of our staff will be there, and would just love the chance to meet you. So you can sign up at northshore.church/startingpoint, or you can click the link that our hosts are posting in the chat right now. I am really just so thankful I get to be part of Starting Point and experiences like this. I get to have a front row seat to see people find their lifelong friends or discover their passion volunteering on one of our teams in a new way. Some people take significant steps like getting baptized, and it's just such a joy to get to be there seeing it all unfold. I know, on the other hand, there's this whole community of you who are responding to God's invitation to live generously in order to make these things possible in people's lives. So for those of you who have been faithfully giving here at Northshore to make things like this possible, I just want to take the chance to say thank you. And for any of you who want to be part of this community that does more together than any of us could do on our own, you can go to northshore.church/give and share in the joy of knowing that the stories of life change that are happening here are because of your generosity too. We are going to continue worshiping together now, so wherever you're watching from, I invite you to sing together with us. Let's do that now.
Step out of the grave. name. Chains will fall, prisons shake at the sound of Jesus' name. Lives made whole, hearts awake at the sound of Jesus' name. Come on, sing, let's go. Where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is freedom, there is freedom. Where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is freedom, there is freedom. Come out in the dark, just as you are, into the fullness of His love. For the Spirit is here, let there be freedom. Let there be freedom. Oh yeah. Let there
Well, hey everybody, welcome to Northshore. Scotty here. Easter is just 1 week away, which means you still have time to buy those delicious marshmallow Peeps candies, and you still have time to invite someone to Easter at Northshore. You might be wondering why I'm in this neighborhood, because it all starts here. You see, whether you plan to join us in person or online, we have an uplifting experience this year at 8, 9:30, and 11 that after this past year I know we all need, but so do our friends and our families, our loved ones, people we care about, our neighbors. And it all starts with a simple invitation. So if you got one of these in the mail, fill it out, use it this week to invite someone you know, or you can text my invite to 97000 and we'll send you an invitation that way. But it's going to be an amazing weekend, and I can't wait to see you and the people you care about next Sunday. But for now, here's Wolfgang.
Well, thanks, Scotty. And hey, everybody, it is so good to see you again. Thanks for being part of Northshore Online. You know, like lots of people, my family and I love to watch movies. And I know over this last year, many of us have watched more movies than maybe we ever did before in our lives. I mean, what else could you do when you're cooped up in all of our houses? And still, all the time, I see people on social media asking for movie recommendations, something somebody watched and enjoyed on Netflix or Amazon Prime or Disney Plus or whatever else. But long before the pandemic, we've loved sitting down as a family at my house, where we'd find a movie on TV or on one of those streaming services. And I've always sort of felt as a dad, part of my job is to expose my kids to the classics. I want them to be cultured, you know, to know what excellence looks like in film. And so I made sure they saw the greats, Star Wars, Back to the Future, Goonies, you know, the classics. And you can tell which decade I grew up in, I suppose. And I wonder, just curiosity, what movies would you consider classics? Would you just go ahead and write it in the chat there and just share which ones you've particularly enjoyed? Anyway, my tastes actually go a little broader than just 80s movies and sci-fi. And so in all seriousness, I've tried to make sure that my kids have seen some of the most influential movies of all time, ones that have just marked or defined our culture, from Gone with the Wind to The Godfather. Of course, only the first two, because the third one's not really worth watching. From Citizen Kane to Alfred Hitchcock's classic Psycho. And some of these movies, obviously, we've waited till they were a little older than others. Well, several years ago, we sat down and watched one of the all-time iconic movies together. In fact, all you have to do is hear the music and you know which movie I'm talking about. You recognize this poster? It's Rocky. You can hear the theme song in your head, can't you? Absolute classic. And this beloved underdog story of a no-name boxer who gets a chance to fight for the heavyweight championship of the world. Just a classic. Well, I found it one night on Netflix. And so that evening, as part of my fatherly cultural education program, we all sat down to watch the movie together. And even though my kids were fairly young at the time, they were automatically drawn into the story. I mean, those great scenes with him training by punching sides of beef, and that stirring moment when he sprints up the steps at that museum in Philadelphia and throws his arm victoriously into the air. You know what I'm talking about. My kids were eating it up. Now, as I was watching the movie, I had forgotten that Rocky is a little over 2 hours long, and it was beginning to get late. And when my kids were little, we were pretty strict about bedtimes. Yeah, we were those parents, I'll admit it. So rather than finish the last half hour or so of the movie, we said, hey, let's just stop it here right before the big fight scene at the end, and then we'll just finish it tomorrow, okay, everybody? And of course, there was minor whining, but everyone sort of shuffled off to bed, no problem. Well, the next night, after dinner, everyone was so excited to find out what would happen to Rocky. So we got everybody back together, we sat down on the couches, I opened up the Netflix app, I went to our previously viewed movies list, and Rocky wasn't there. Well, that's strange, so I did a search, R-O-C-K-Y, you have to spell it out by clicking around on that annoying little remote control. Still, the search didn't show up anything at all. So I started Googling to find out what in the world was going on, and it was that night that I discovered that many streaming services like Netflix, they rotate the movies that are available. They'll add new ones, they'll take old ones away. Well, guess which movie had been removed from Netflix literally that night? You guessed it. Rocky. It was kind of a bad dad moment. So the kids were bummed. We were all left hanging, just dying to know what happens in the rest of the story. I mean, what happened in Rocky's big fight with Apollo? Did Rocky and Adrian wind up together as everyone hoped they would? And it wasn't until a couple months later, actually, that we were able to get the movie on DVD from the library to finally see how it all ended. My kids still tease me about that. Because there's nothing like being drawn into a story, getting to know the characters, following the twists and turns of their lives, wondering how is it all going to turn out, only to be left hanging. Well, if you've read through the book of Acts, which we've been learning about over these last several weeks, you might have had a similar experience. Because when you get to the end of chapter 28, you discover it just ends. No neat little bow to tie up all the loose ends. No, and they all lived happily ever after. Rather abruptly, it just ends. Which seems strange at first, because up to that point, this story has been masterful, incredible, going all the way back to the beginning of the book. You remember, we studied this earlier. We see these unlikely men and women who have their lives changed by Jesus and his grace. And he tells them, I want you to go out and to tell others what you've seen. You remember his challenge for them, right? In Acts 1:8, he says, you'll receive power when the Holy Spirit comes on you. And then what's their job? You will be my witnesses. You will tell others what you've seen and experienced. And you'll do it in Jerusalem, their hometown, and in Judea and Samaria, the region, and then to the very ends of the earth. He says, here's what I want you to do. Go tell people there is a God who loves them and who knows them. That it is possible to be free from the sin of their past and to live a new life of power and purpose. And these unlikely people step up to the challenge. They do it. You remember in chapter 2, Peter, who never preached a message in his life, he stands up boldly in front of throngs of people, and he tells people this good news about Jesus. And that day, 3,000 people became followers of Jesus. And the movement continued to grow. They experienced incredible things. We've looked at many of these, witnessing miracles, building this phenomenal, extraordinary, generous community. And even though they're facing persecution, very intense persecution, they courageously overcome the pressure to tell more and more people about Jesus. And as a result, the movement continues to spread. Soon, another unlikely person becomes part of the movement. Again, we talked about this a few weeks ago in Acts chapter 9. This man named Saul, who devoted his life to stamping out Christianity, he has his life completely transformed. He goes from being one of the greatest persecutors of the church to being one of its greatest preachers. And he launches a new kind of work that crosses ethnic and social lines, that moves into different cultures and regions throughout the known world. And as that movement continues to grow, more and more people join the team. Men, women, young, old, wealthy, poor, they all become part of this movement. And soon it spreads beyond just their hometown of Jerusalem. It spreads beyond just the Middle East. It spreads into every other part of the world. You see, Saul, now known as Paul, he leads a team of people to go into the major cities throughout that region on a series of missionary journeys. You can read through the stories for yourself from chapter 13 in Acts all the way up through chapter 21. Luke records their experiences on each of these journeys. And each of them goes further and further toward the ends of the earth, beyond their home region. First into Europe, into what is now Turkey, then into what is now Greece. And they visit all the major cities of the area: Philippi, Thessalonica, Corinth, Ephesus, Monroe. No, they don't go that far. They stay in that area. But they're all places where Paul started churches and later sent letters to encourage his friends there. They go to Athens, as Scott talked about last week. I mean, these are Rocky-style underdogs squaring off against the greatest powers of their day. But they were part of a movement that could not be stopped, that overcame obstacles in their path. And more people became followers of Jesus. More and more churches started in cities throughout the region. And they saw miracle after miracle, healings, miraculous escapes from prison, lives being changed. It's the kind of thing you'd see in a movie. But you see, friends, this isn't just a story or something made up for a screen. This really happened. And within just a few decades, what had been a few hundred believers at the beginning of Acts was now tens of thousands of people all over the known world. But all along, Paul's ultimate goal was to get to Rome. Rome, of course, was the most important city on the planet at that time. Not only was it the capital of the empire, it was the center of culture, of commerce. It was the center of everything. And Paul knew if he was able to establish a church there in that influential city, this Jesus movement would be able to spread even faster. And for a time, it looked like it might never happen. There were challenges, there were threats. For many reasons, he couldn't make the trip. But to make a very long story short, eventually, Paul returns from one of his missionary journeys back to the city of Jerusalem. He knew there would be trouble, but he went anyway. And sure enough, things did not go well. Acts tells us there was a group of people in Jerusalem who had vowed to kill Paul for talking about Jesus. Their plan was to kidnap him and kill him. Doesn't it sound like the plot of a movie? But somehow word got out. And rather than let Paul be killed by the mob, the Roman authorities arrested Paul to try to bring some peace to the city. Very similar to what they did when they arrested Jesus. And they put Paul through a series of trials, trying to figure out what in the world to do with him. Now, a little side note, personal experience here. Archaeologists have actually found the courtroom where Paul was tried in a place called Caesarea Maritima. And one of the most memorable experiences of my life was standing on the very stone floor where Paul was tried for telling people about Jesus. It's a powerful experience, and maybe one day we'll be able to pull together a trip from Northshore to go and visit such a thing. So the story continues, though. Chapter 21 through 27, it describes each of these trials that Paul endured. How again and again, Paul told the story of how he had met Jesus, even to the Roman governors and officials who he was appearing before. He talked about the change that Jesus had made in his life every chance he got. But eventually, after appealing his case to higher and higher and higher levels, Paul appealed his case to the highest level of all, Caesar himself. See, Paul was a Roman citizen, and one of the rights of Roman citizens was that they had the right to appeal to the highest authority. But instead of that being a supreme court like it is in our system, their supreme authority was Caesar himself. And so Paul is chained to a Roman guard, put on a ship, and sailed to Rome. Acts 27 and 28 tell the story. And again, it reads like an adventure novel. Because on the way to Rome, their ship actually gets caught in a serious storm and crashes on the island of Malta. There, Paul miraculously survives being bitten by a poisonous snake which leads to even more people becoming followers of Jesus. Don't believe it? It's there in Acts 27. Read it for yourself. Until finally, in chapter 28, Paul arrives in Rome where he is chained to a guard and kept under house arrest. And as he's sitting there in Rome, waiting for his trial before Caesar, here's how the book ends. The last 2 verses. For 2 years, Paul stayed there in his own rented house and welcomed all who came to see him. He proclaimed the kingdom of God and taught about the Lord Jesus Christ with all boldness and without hindrance. That's it. Boom. The book of Acts ends, chapter 28, right there. And we're left hanging. Wait a second. What happens next? Does Paul win his appeal before Caesar? Does he fulfill his dream of going even further into Europe, telling more people about Jesus? Acts doesn't say. The book just ends right there, chapter 28. I mean, this would be like reading a book about Sir Edmund Hillary climbing Mount Everest without ever actually telling us if he makes it to the summit. Or a book about the Civil Rights March from Selma, Alabama, without ever telling us if Dr. King and those marchers actually made it all the way to Montgomery. The book just ends. Now, we know from history what happens. Eventually, Paul, he's executed there in Rome. He's beheaded. Similar thing happens to Peter. He's arrested. And most scholar believes he's taken to Rome and crucified there, near the spot where the Vatican still stands today in Rome. And we know that the mission continued. We know that even with the deaths of Peter and Paul, others stepped in to take up their roles, to continue to spread this good news across the known world. The Apostle Thomas, for instance, remember the one who doubted? He goes east to tell people about Jesus in India. The Apostle James, he goes even further up into Europe, into Spain, where he continues to spread this good news. But none of that's included in Acts. We just get to the end of chapter 28, and the book seems to leave us hanging. It just ends. And the question is, why? Now, some people have speculated that maybe Luke meant to write a 3rd volume in the series. Remember, Luke's first volume is the Gospel of Luke, which records the life and ministry of Jesus. Acts, that we've been learning about, that movement of the early Christians, that's really volume 2. Did he plan to write a volume 3? Or did he actually write it and it's just been lost to history? Or perhaps he was killed before he had the chance. Because tradition tells us that Luke was martyred, killed for his faith in the Greek city of Thebes in the year 84. See, the truth is, we just don't know. But then again, there are others who say the way Acts ends, it's absolutely perfect. Because they say, this isn't a book about a handful of Christian heroes like Peter or Paul. Ultimately, the book's not about them. It's not even about this single generation who took Jesus up on his challenge to be his witnesses in Jerusalem, Judea, Samaria, and the ends of the earth. Acts isn't about those people at all. Acts is about the movement that erupted because of the resurrection of Jesus. In fact, some would say Acts is a book that will never actually be done being written, because it's a book still being written today. Why? Because that movement that started with these early Jesus followers, this movement that was led by a whole team of imperfect people like Peter and Paul and so many others we've talked about in this series, that movement is still alive and thriving today, still an unstoppable force today. The supernatural power of the Holy Spirit that fueled that movement, it's the same Spirit that is still at work today. Because you see, friends, Luke might have stopped writing at the end of chapter 28, but God hasn't stopped writing. He's continuing to write stories of lives being changed because of Jesus. And ever since that first generation, followers of Jesus have been writing Acts 29 and 30 and 31 all the way up to now Acts 20, 21 and beyond. Now, there have been dark chapters in that book, ugly chapters like the Crusades or the Inquisitions, but there have been far more beautiful chapters that have been written by nearly 2,000 years of Jesus followers who've carried on the work of telling people about Jesus, sharing that good news with them, being the hands and feet of Jesus in this world. ordinary people from all over the world who are learning to love like Jesus and to live like Jesus and to look like Jesus, and who are working in our world with the same kind of courage and compassion and joy that we read about in this book of Acts. I mean, that's what's so challenging about the way Acts ends. It's not that it leaves us hanging. It's not that we look at Acts and we say, well, what's going to happen, God? It's like God, through the book of Acts, he's looking at us and he's saying, you tell me what's going to happen, because you are part of this story. The way you live, the things you do, the way you risk and pray and serve and give and share, that is all part of still writing this story in our world. See, friends, that's the challenge for us as we restart. Will we take the baton from those who come before us? Will we say, in our generation, in our lives, we will continue this kind of work that we read about in Acts? We will continue to do the things that they did, to live with an outrageous vision. We will continue to rely on the power of the Holy Spirit. We will live generous, authentic lives. We won't let our past or our pride get in the way of being part of his movement. We will discover the part we're called to play on this team. And we will show and share the love of Jesus to this world, with our hearts broken for the needs that are all around us, those that are lost or confused or hurting in our world. We will humbly, lovingly, authentically share with them what we have found. Friends, our world needs it, just like their world did. And that's the challenge. And it's not just for those of us who are pastors or leaders, it's for all of us. If you are a Christian, you have a part to play in this story. And if you're not a Christian, you need to know God has designed a part for you. He's reserved a spot for you at his table, in his family. And he can't wait to welcome you home. See, it's a challenge for all of us. No matter how hard it might get, no matter how much easier it would be to just give up and to focus on writing our own stories, the challenge is to carry on with the same passion and faith that they did in the book of Acts. That same kind of passion that Paul talked about when he wrote to the church in Corinth these words in 2 Corinthians chapter 4, starting in verse 16. He said to those early Christians, "We do not lose heart. Though outwardly we are wasting away, yet inwardly we are being renewed day by day. For our light and momentary troubles are achieving for us an eternal glory that far outweighs them all. So we fix our eyes, not on what is seen, but on what is unseen. Since what is seen is temporary, but what is unseen, that's eternal." I mean, this is a man who, as we've seen, has been shipwrecked, he's been beaten, he's been arrested, he's been falsely accused, but compared to being part of the story that God wanted to write in his world, all of it was worth it. He said, that's where I fix my eyes. That's what I stay focused on. That's the story I want to be part of, a story that matters for eternity. Can I tell you, I am so proud to be part of a church that takes a challenge like that seriously. Because, friend, God continues to write stories in and through this place in our world. Recently, I heard about one of our partners in Spain that we've been financially supporting for many years. They've been doing sort of Acts 29 and beyond kind of work. And they're serving in some of the most challenging circumstances you can imagine. See, these partners have devoted their lives to rescuing women who have been lured into the dark world of human sex trafficking. And even in the midst of this pandemic, they've been doing incredible work rescuing those who are being exploited. You see, many of these women who were being forced to work on the streets, they were left without any income when the pandemic closed life in Spain. And so this organization, partly because of our support, was able to step in with food support and other kinds of assistance to help build relationships with these women, to help them find freedom and people they can trust. As a result, last year, they were able to rescue 12 women from that dark world. So far this year, they've been able to rescue another 5. mean, these are 17 women who a little more than a year ago were being abused and exploited in terrible ways, but now they're finding freedom and hope because some followers of Jesus stepped up to love and serve and help them. Friends, it's right out of the book of Acts. One really exciting story. During one of the rescues, they wound up working with a woman whose name is Trust. Very cool name, don't you think? Like many women who are caught in that world, she had been a refugee from Nigeria who was tricked into this dark enslavement. But 4 years ago, she was rescued by our partners there. And she went through a process they've designed to help restore and get folks back on their feet. Now, Trust, she's working as an interpreter with the police there in the city. And in that role, she's able to tell the women she encounters about the ministry that touched her life and can touch theirs as well. To help them from that unique position escape the darkness of that world. And she's already been key in continuing to build relationships to help those women escape. I mean, it's almost like a Saul Paul story, isn't it? Someone with this difficult past who God is now using to help other women find freedom and the good news of Jesus. That's Acts kind of stuff, isn't it? We hear stories from our partners in India where there continues to be growing persecution, much like they faced back then. I mentioned a few weeks ago that there are some new laws that have been passed there recently that make inviting someone to become a follower of Jesus, actually that's illegal now. And at that point, when I last had spoken with our partners, 11 people associated with the ministry we support were being held on those charges. Just this week, I found out that 6 of them have been released, and yet 5 are still being held. And the only charge is that they were telling other people about Jesus. Pray with me for them, friends. And yet in the face of that persecution, that ministry continues to explode, much like it did in the book of Acts. Several years ago, Northshore raised around $150,000. Many of you were part of contributing to that. It built a training center for pastors and church planters in that area of northern India. And that community of pastors, even in the face of persecution, has continued to grow dramatically. So much so that they recently let us know about a need to expand the training facility to allow more people to be part of that network and support and encouragement. And because of the generosity of the people who give to this church at Northshore, when we found out about that need, we were able to send more than $50,000 to pay for that expansion and to furnish that new space. It'll be finished and in full use this summer. Why? Because of the same kind of radical generosity that we saw in the book of Acts. We see similar things happening in Nicaragua. Many years ago, Northshore teamed up with a church in Los Cedros, Nicaragua, to build a school to serve under-resourced families and their kids. And it has made an incredible impact in that community. Last fall, they graduated 14 students from the school. Here's their graduation pic. And most of them have plans to enroll in college to continue their education. Not only are great things happening there at the school, but the church that we're teamed up there is also making an incredible impact. They stepped up their crisis relief work through the pandemic, and as a result, more and more people in that community have been looking to that church as a place of support and encouragement and help. As a result, there have been many more people getting connected, being reached by their ministry, and ultimately deciding to follow Jesus. Recently, they shared a story with us about someone who took the incredible step of being baptized. In fact, over the last several months, they baptized 10 people who became followers of Jesus and expressed that faith through baptism. One of those who did it was a 78-year-old man named Adolfo, who, because he was able to receive some financial support from the church there, he began to get connected to that church. He heard about a God who loves and knows him, and he became a follower of Christ and was baptized not long ago. See, friends, these are the kinds of stories that God is continuing to write in our world through this church, and of course, so many others. And it's not just in other parts of the world, it's right here as well. Every single week, through our Kirkland campus and through our online campus, people discover Northshore and become part of the community here. We just finished another Alpha course. That's an environment where people have a chance to explore faith, to learn who Jesus is. We've been doing this for several years, and over those years, we've seen dozens of people taking steps spiritually because of that experience. In fact, in the Easter celebration next week, you're going to hear the story of one of those people, my good friend Jan May, who became a follower of Jesus through Alpha and was baptized a few Easters ago. You'll also hear from my new friend Benny, who only moved to this area recently, but quickly got connected at Northshore. He's found a place to belong. He also was baptized here a few weeks ago. Their stories are powerful, and we'll be sharing them in next week's Easter celebration. See, through the pandemic, people have been finding connection in life groups, finding healing and hope in our support and recovery groups and experiences. Because of your generosity, we've been able to give hundreds of thousands of dollars to meet needs in our area and around the world. Friends, those are the kinds of stories that God continues to write in this world and in his church. The story of Acts hasn't stopped, friends. It's still being written today. And of course, next week, we'll have another chance to be part of that story. Because as we get ready for Easter, we have this unique opportunity to invite people to come check it out for themselves, to be part of this movement, whether they come here to our Kirkland campus or they log on online. Because when you tell someone else about what Jesus has done in your life, or when you invite them to hear about how Jesus is still changing everything for anyone, you see, your life becomes part of the story that God is writing in this world. When you pray and you give and you invite and you serve, you are part of that unstoppable force that we read about in the book of Acts. Because God wasn't done at the end of Acts 28. And friends, I believe to the deepest parts of my soul, he's not done yet here either. Inviting hurting people to find healing. Inviting lonely people to find belonging. Inviting weary people to find rest. Inviting frightened people to find hope, and inviting broken people to find a new life and purpose in Jesus. And next week, we're going to celebrate that as we gather for Easter. So who do you know who's hurting or lonely or weary or fearful? You can invite them. You can invite them to see what story God might want to write in their lives and in yours. I can't wait to see what he does. And I hope you'll pray with me about that right now. Let's pray. Oh God. God, we thank you. We thank you for those who've come before us and so faithfully served you in their generation. People who may have been underdogs at the time, but kept their eyes fixed on eternity and lived and served and gave and prayed and invited in such a way as to be part of the story that you are writing in our world. And God, I thank you for the chance we now have, standing on their shoulders, to continue that same work in our day. Whether it's our partners in other parts of this world, or whether it's right here at Northshore, either online or at our Kirkland campus. God, I pray for next week. I pray for those who will hear about your love for them in that experience. I pray for each of us as we think and pray about who we might want to invite to be part of that experience as well. And God, I thank you. I thank you for the beautiful way you continue to write your story in this world. We want to be part of it, God. So thank you. We pray all these things in the name that is still changing lives today, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Every battle, every heartbreak, every circumstance, I believe that you are my fortress, you are my portion, you are my hiding place. I believe you are the way, the truth, the life. I believe you are the way, the truth, the life. I believe through every blessing, every promise, every breath are the one I love. Jesus, I believe you are the way, the truth, the life. I believe you are the way, the truth, the life. I believe you are. Yeah. It's a new horizon, and I'm set on you. And you meet me here today with mercies that I knew. All my fears and doubts, they can all come true, because they can't stay long when I'm here with you. It's a new horizon, and I'm set on you. And you meet me here today with mercies that I knew. Oh, all my fears and doubts, they can all come true, because they can't stay long when I believe you are the way, the truth, yeah, the life. I believe you are the way, the truth, the life. I believe you are. It's a new horizon, and I'm set on you. And you meet me here today with mercies that I knew. Yeah, all my fears and doubts, they can all come true, because they can't stay long when I believe you are the way, the truth, yeah, the life. I believe you are the way, yeah, the truth, the life. I believe you are. Yeah. You're the way, you're the truth, you're the life, Jesus.
We believe, we believe.
Well, North Shore, it was so good to worship with you today. Thank you all so much for joining us.
And we have such a big week ahead. I mean, it is one of the biggest weekends of our year. Starting right here next Friday, online, 7 o'clock for our Good Friday service. I just cannot wait.
Yes, definitely prioritize that. 7 p.m. online only, just one service, so don't miss it. And then obviously our massive Easter celebration on Sunday, April 4th. 8, 9:30, and 11, in person and online. All the details can be found at northshore.church/Easter. This is the last time we're going to be talking about it. Like, I'm
Because
kind of
next week
sad.
it's Easter though, which is awesome.
Yeah, it's
next
true.
weekend is Easter.
It's true. We're so excited. We hope you are too. But we'll see you back here, same time, same place, right here at North Shore Online. We'll see you then.